I don't know about you, but when I was going through religion from my 20s, first I was in a church. We would do the Feast of Tabernacles, and we would all, everybody would buy fine liquor and wine, and we would drink during that time. So then I go out of that church and go into a Pentecostal church, no drinking. Then I go back into the Methodist church, it's your decision. So anyway, I've been up and down. So I read this joke this morning, and I thought, I just loved it. It says, a minister was giving this sermon on temperance. And I know when I was in the Pentecostal church, I had plenty of those about people that drank and all of that. And so he said, with God, with great emphasis, he said, if I had all the beer in the world, I would pour it in the river. And then with even more emphasis, he said, if I had all the wine in the world, I would also pour it in the river. And then he lifts up his fist and he said, and if I had the liquor in the world, I would throw all of that in the river. And so the song people get up at the end of the service, and he has a smile on his face, even laughing, and he said, the last song will be, let's all gather at the river. Anyway, and I think that's what we're doing. We're gathering at the river to be free right now, aren't we? Well, you know what? I have a new little grandson. Well, he's 5 or 6 months old now. But I've talked about him before. His name is Phoenix, and I know that name is so synonymous, so perfect for him, because the phoenix is what died and then comes up out of the ashes. So I look in his little eyes and I know there is such a purpose. But have you ever thought, where were you before you came here? Have you ever thought of that? And right now I want you just to kind of think about this. Right now, just imagine what it would be like and how it would be to be alive without your body. Close your eyes just a moment. Because when we close our eyes, we can get that feel. What would it be right now without your body? Without your physical body, without all the stuff you need to maintain your life on earth? How would it be to be totally free right now? First of all, you would have the mental energy to move forward, backwards, any place in time you wanted. You would be timeless. You could go back in history. You could go forward. There would be no limitations. And you wouldn't be concerned with time or space. And you could create anything you desired instantly. Just see things, whatever it was you want, popping up instantly. And you would be in a state of pure bliss and have no fear of losing anything. You would have no possessions to protect. How about that? You didn't have to lock your door, worry about your jewelry, any of those things. No bills to pay. No duties to do. No demands on your time. No goals to achieve. And you'd be in love with everything and everybody without judgment. You can open your eyes now. That's where you came from. And when I look in Phoenix's eyes, and many of us have looked into new baby's eyes, we can see all that almost. We can see that, and you know what I say to babies now? Whenever I see a little baby and I catch their eyes, I say, I see you. Because I want them to know, I know that they know. And I know I say that not always verbally, but in my consciousness. And it's almost like a flicker in their eyes that they know you do know. And that's the world of spirit. That's where you came from, where I came from, to being in spirit. And that's where we're all returning. That's really what we're here on this earth today to do. To really begin to realize you are not your body. You are not your body. You are something infinite, eternal, limitless. No father, no mother. If those of us that came out of religion, we remember Melchizedek, who was in the Old Testament. It was really that picture of Yeshua that would come. No father, no mother, no beginning, no end. That's you. Total freedom. And within us, that song that Pam and Mark sang this morning, moving on. We're all moving on, wanting that freedom, that bliss. And we don't want you to move on. We want you to stay here. But anyway, they are moving on. But we're all, we are reconnecting to our spiritual origin. That's really what, people are always looking for their life purpose. What am I going to do? Am I going to be a speaker like, Wayne Dyer, or be in front of thousands? When you read his books, he really knew what his purpose was. That was part of his purpose, but his ultimate purpose in his life was to reconnect to spirit. Reconnect to live inspired every moment of every day. And we can all do that. How would it be to know everything, every person that comes into our life, every moment of every day was inspired, that we are in spirit in that moment and see past the illusion. I love this quote from Oprah. It said, I will be bold enough to say I know for sure it's the greatest discovery of my life. To recognize that you're more than your body and you're more than your mind. And let me tell you something else about your mind. You know, 80% of the thoughts that you think are not true and will never happen. And you know, we always say thoughts are going through our minds. I can't remember how many thousands of thoughts we have every day. But this is the thing. You don't let it, it's like a bird. You don't have to let it make a nest in your mind and keep, you know, laying eggs and just keep thinking about it. You can let them go through and realize they're not truth to you. So we're really growing up. So could spirituality be recognizing, as Teilhard said so profoundly, spirituality isn't something to believe in, it's what you are. And so many times, you know, we believe in spirituality, but what we really need to know is that we are spirituality. We are spirits in these bodies, and we've heard this many, many times, having a human experience. But the whole thing about the human experience is that we're here to reconnect with that freedom. I love that song Mark and Pam sing too, Born Free. We are born free. And I want you this week to find a baby, wherever you are, and look in that baby's eyes. I don't know about you, but I can see so clearly that they know. That they have just come from that place of spirit, and they have a knowing. I really believe that's why they can't speak. Because if they could speak when they first came into the world, they'd be telling us all kinds of things. But they really know. So it's who we are, spirit having a human experience. And Yeshua said, we are in the world, but not of the world. How many of you watch Ancient Aliens on television?
Yeah.
Boy, all my friends, even if they're not spiritual, they're all watching that now. And I don't think it's going to be long before the government really tells us, you know, that we've been in contact with aliens for many years. But hello, aliens. You know, we think that they're aliens. How about you? Where'd you come from? You think you just came out of the earth? Yeah, your body did, but your spirit didn't. We are all interconnected. We are all so interconnected. So that was powerful when he said, you're in the world, but you're not of this world. But what happens is when we're born, we begin to be programmed, don't we, of the world. We believe we've got limitations. We believe that we're not good enough. We believe all these things that come down through generation after generation. We begin fearful. We do all these things out of fear to try to keep from getting sick and all of these things. But what we're really trying to connect to is that place within us that can't get sick. You know, in kinesiology, this is an interesting thing. You know, when we're in a certain state of consciousness, they can put poison in our hands or antibiotic or something, and it disempowers us. But as the consciousness raises, they can put rat poisoning in your hand and it doesn't disempower you. You know, there's a verse in the Bible that says they will eat deadly things and not be harmed. And what it was really pointing to was a state in consciousness of humanity when nothing outside of us can harm us. When we are so empowered within ourselves, so connected within ourselves to the truth of who we are, that nothing can disempower us. How would that be that you didn't have to worry about all those things that we worry about today? So we're here to claim our spiritual beingness and the fullness of our potential. Because, you know, Yeshua said this too. And I can remember when I was in religion, that scripture that said, you know, the things I do, and even greater things you're going to do. And I used to say, where are they? I'd go to church, everybody be up at the altars crying, sick, weak, broke. I'd say, you know, something's amiss here. You know, we're not getting the full message here. Because where are those greater things that Yeshua was saying that we were going to do? Because I believe all of the masters, Buddha, Krishna, Hindu, all of them, and Jesus came as way showers. Jesus himself said, I'm a pattern son. It's like laying down a pattern. He said, I'm going to show you the way of ascension, how to raise your consciousness in a lifetime and really become awakened. So we are here to recognize that we are not our thoughts and that the potential to do those greater things, that we're not our thoughts. And then recognizing and changing the way our ego-based mind dominates our life. And it does. And it's through awareness that we begin to become aware of our thoughts. I loved Eckhart Tolle. You know, when Oprah had him on that, it was like the biggest class in the whole world. I think there was 5 or 6 million people on that class of Oprah's on New Earth. And the whole thing he was talking about was being aware, by being in the presence, by being in the moment, to become aware of our thoughts, and that we are not our thoughts. That New Earth was a profound thing. It changed lives. So by recognizing that, ego is that which broadcasts that we're in separation. When you're in judgment, you're in ego. Because what are we saying? You're different from me, and I'm judging you, you're outside of me. If we could see that spark of light, what if we could see that spark of light within everybody? Would that change everything? But I think we're here to begin to become aware of that spark of light within and know we're all connected. And I like the way the Bible describes it this way. It says this way. It says, we walk not in the flesh. We walk in the flesh, but we don't war after the flesh. There is nothing outside of ourselves that's against us. And I've said this probably 1,000,000 times. Pam's probably heard it 1,000,000 times. I love the devil when we had him. He was such a great guy because we could say, the devil made me do it. The devil's against me. You know, when we were on television, we had people answering the phone on Friday night. People call and say, the devil this week and everything I did, he was against me and everything, you know. And how can you tell somebody like that you are responsible for your own life? It's so great when we project it outside of ourselves. But the Bible, it says we are in the flesh, but we don't war after the flesh. It's not something on the outside of us that's against us. It says, for the weapons of our warfare are not physical, they're not carnal. You know, Dan Brown, he said, put it this way, he said, remember in the book, Dan Brown, where all of the Catholic priests, they put all of these fetters around themselves and things around their legs because they were suffering, because they had these passions of the flesh. And so they would try to torture the flesh. How many of you know what I'm talking about? I've seen the movie or read the book. Well, in the Catholic, there's a certain part of the Catholic Church that punishes themselves when they have these feelings. They put like barbed wire around their legs and different things so that they keep remembering when they have these urges or whatever, that to crucify their flesh. But the Bible clearly says we don't war against the flesh. It's not the flesh, it's the mind. It's the thoughts that we're really doing. It says, so the weapons of our warfare are not carnal or physical, but now let's know what they are, but mighty through the Spirit to pulling down strongholds, to pulling down egoic thoughts that you're not good enough, that you don't have power, that you can't do it, that everything isn't going to work out, that you're going to be foreclosed on. All of these things that go through our minds, those are the things. It says we pull every thought captive to the mind of divinity. And that's what we're here to do, is we pull those thoughts, those strongholds. There is not one stronghold outside of you. The only stronghold is inside of you. And as we pull those thoughts, as they go through our mind, fear goes through. If I don't do this and do all these things, I'm going to get sick. And if I don't do, as we pull those down and say, you know, the ultimate truth is every cell of my body is healthy. And the ultimate truth is every relationship is love. And we begin to pull those thoughts down, captive to the mind of Christ. So it says, but mighty through the Spirit to pull down strongholds, ego-based thinking, casting down imaginations, and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, divinity, who you are. What's the purpose of life? That's it right there. Every thought you have that is not, you know, there was a scripture, I'm trying to think of that scripture that I used to think it was about cussing. It says, do you remember that? No, it was another one. It says, something about don't utter any vain something or other. I can't remember, but I always thought it was cussing. But the whole thing is, if we utter anything that is not in alignment with who we are, we're disempowering ourselves. When you say, I'm sick, I can't pay my bills, I got to work all the time, I don't have good relationships, whatever you are saying, guess what's coming back to you? Every word we say, you know, also the Bible says this, our words are like the rudder of a ship. They direct our lives because every word has an energetic frequency. So whatever we're putting out, it's like a boomerang. It comes back and directs our life more into that direction. So we really are beginning to see that everything that comes, and Jesus said this too, it's not what goes into a man that defiles a man, It's what comes out of a man. We're so worried about what we eat, but the most powerful thing is what we say and what we think. Those are the things that defile our bodies, our minds, everything else. So we're pulling down everything that exalts itself against the knowledge of God and bring it into captivity, every thought to the obedience of our divinity. Every thought to the obedience of our divinity. What if every thought you had, you stopped and said, is that true? I think Katie, I can't think of her last name, one of her things that she has like a 5-point program.
Byron Katie.
Byron Katie says, one of the things is it true? Is it true that you have limitations in your life? Is it true that you're going to get, as we get older, we're just waiting for sickness to come? Is it true that, people they're judging us? So the first thing we say, what if we had those thoughts and we said, is it true? And you are really who you are is a timeless, formless presence. And you are master of your own fate. And that's really, I think, what Miles is going to talk about this afternoon. How we can use, and let me tell you the word imagination. It's an image nation. We image the nation that we live in. Your imagination, it says we were created in the image of God. That was in the very imagination. That is what has created everything we see on this outside world is an imagination. And I think what Miles is going to teach us afternoon is how we can use that tool. If the creator of all the universe used that tool to create universes in the cosmos and you and life, how much more if we are in that imagination, have that imagination, can we create a life that's powerful? And that's what we do. That's what MBOC is all about, is empowering you. It's not about me being the one that has the information. It's about you empowering your own life. And that's what we hear. I always said, when we had a television program, I said, I'm not here to tell you that you're sinners and how bad you are. You believe that. That's what you've been programmed to believe. I'm here to tell you you're not. Because all that stuff about sin it was an archery term that means missing the mark. That you missed the mark and didn't know you were God. You didn't know you were divine. Had nothing to do with anything outside of you. And this is powerful stuff. And you know what? Sometimes we need to hear it over and over and over and over again because it's repetition that really makes us get these things. And when we get these things, it really changes our whole life. So we're here to bring peace to that ego voice and no longer let it control us. A place where we can allow the truth of our being. And we learn to live in spirit. That book, New Earth, I said, it was just so awesome. And Eckhart Tolle said that his teachings were from all the ancient masters about the power. Now this is another thing I'm learning about, is the power of letting go. How many times have we heard that statement, let go and let God? But it was religious at that time. But how about letting go of what we think is right? And really allowing Spirit to carry us, to really surrender those things that we're frustrated with, that we can't make work. Letting go the self that has to die. Yeshua was one of those masters, and he taught that there was 2 life forces, and he said, for whosoever shall save his life, your ego, your psyche, shall lose it. And what he was meaning, will lose that living in spirit. There's 2 lives talking about in the Bible. There's Zoe life, which is God life, and there was psyche life. When you look up those words in Greek or Aramaic, he was talking about 2 different lives. And he says, if we hold on to that egoic life, controlling everything, living in fear and all of that, we lose that in spirit life. But when we let go of that egoic life, we can begin to live in spirit. And he said, for whosoever shall save his life shall lose it. Lose by living not in Zoe life. And whoever shall lose his life, that ego, that psychic, that false identity, for my sake shall find it. Saying that willing to let go of that ego and let divinity is so powerful. Another thing he said, I was thinking about this morning on the way here after I had done this. He says, unless a grain of seed falls into the ground and dies, it cannot multiply and become fruitful. Outside, as I was coming in this morning, on the last equinox, we all planted a seed because it was the new season of rebirth and life. And this morning, go when you leave, those seeds, did you see, Barb? Those seeds are coming up. They have a spray of green that's coming up. So when we that's really one of the pictures of the crucifixion. Jesus, Yeshua, went as a dry seed into the ground. That ego into the ground, that it could die into that tomb of darkness, just as those seeds in the dark earth went, that it could bring forth new life. And that's exactly what we're doing too. We're allowing that ego to go down, that we can bring forth that new life. When I saw those green stalks this morning, I thought exactly what I was talking about. That's why that unless the seed fall into the ground and die, it can't reproduce. And we really have come into this dark earth, into this earth field as those seeds to reproduce and to really show. So we're learning. So which is the true, infinite, formless life is what we're really connecting to, that divine source. I know all of us remember in 2004, that great tsunami. How many of you remember what happened? The tsunami. Do you know 305,000 people were either died or missing in that tsunami? And it affected people in Indonesia, South Asia, and as far as the shores of Africa. But months after the tragedy, a new story evolved about a group of people. How many of you have heard about those group of people? None of you have heard about those? Well, I was just reading about it. It was a nomadic tribe who lived on the water, and the story of this tribe emerged. The tribe lived on the water and traveled back and forth between a series of remote islands off the coast of Thailand. And these people had a history of orally passing down wisdom gained while living on islands and living close to nature. They didn't live in modern society. So they were really connected to, generation after generation, connected to nature, really living in spirit. And so these people were close to nature, and by living close to nature, they knew that the waters, and they caught their fish and everything through these crude things, but mostly they stayed connected to spirit, and they realized by this guidance that the tribe had passed down these stories of tsunamis that had happened in ancient times. So when they noticed the shifting of the waters, they knew what was coming, and the whole tribe moved up to the mountains. So when the tsunami came, their boats and homes were destroyed, but they watched the tsunami happen. And because they were close to spirit, they knew what was happening and went up to the mountain. How many of you heard about the animals? The animals also, because of being close to nature, knew what was happening, and the animals also went up to the mountains. And none of them were destroyed. Do you see what's happening right now? We have been living in this modern world, in these modern times, seen it and all of these things, but we're being called back to nature. We're being called back to connecting to spirit, that we too can really be connected and know. Nature is just a picture of mankind. It says in the Bible, consider the lily, how it neither reaps nor sows, but is arrayed more than anything in the tabernacles, is more beautiful. It's when we begin to connect to spirit, to the simplicity of life, that we get that direction, and it's being still that we can hear it. Sometimes we get so caught up in all that's happening in the world, and TV, and all that's happening, the noise, the chatter in our minds, all of the things, that we lose that connection. But that tribe, when I read about that, I thought, what a profound thing that they sensed and knew what was coming. And really, that's where we're being pressed to live, by that intuition. So it destroyed everything, but didn't destroy them. They survived because they lived and defined by being in spirit, in connection at all times with their spirit. There were no words for ego in their language. They lived in total God realization. And what are we here on this earth for? We're here to live in that divine realization of who we are, connected to that frequency that is all-knowing. And I always think of a computer. What a picture that is. The computer, you put in anything you want, it's got all the information. Where does it come from? I mean, how does that little computer have all that information? Anytime I'm doing going to give a speech or something, I type in something I want to know, and I get, website after website is going to tell me about that, because it's connected. That's you. And what we need to do is Delete all that information that we've had and begin to plug into the information that comes directly to us. When we really know every single one of us is connected, and every single one of us can live every moment in God realization. So consequently, they were able to join a divine knowing, and you can too. And they made it their own. And we can do the same by surrendering to our spiritual source and pressing our ego out of our lives. True awakening is when thinking, awareness, and present all aligns together, and there's a shift in consciousness. Presence or awareness and consciousness connects with universal intelligence, that source of all knowing, and within every single one of us is that source. You know, we go to outside help, we go to readers, we go to healers, we go to all these things. But every single one of those is an in-part realm. Because the truth is, within every single one of us, we're whole. The truth is, everything you need is inside of you. Health, abundance, great relationships, love. But we're getting the tools through Miles and other teachers. We're getting those tools to begin applying those to our lives. To learn how to not let those thoughts, those egoic thoughts, rule our lives. How to forgive, how to walk in love, how to surrender. All of these things are tools how to use our imagination to create the things that we want. You're in a phenomenal time because we're seeing this happen all over the world. People are awakening all over this globe and beginning to take and master their lives by connecting to that all-knowing. What if you had $1 million in the bank? What would you do with it? Tony always says it's not good to have $1 million in the bank, but I'm just using this as an analogy. What if you had $1 million in the bank, but you never knew it, and you didn't know how to write a withdrawal slip? We're teaching you, me, and I'm learning myself. All of us are learning how to do that withdrawal slip, that we can begin taking that $1 million out and putting it in our lives and using it to empower ourselves. Your $1 million is there. Everything, your health is there. Your great relationships is there. Your abundance is there. Everything you want is right there. But what you need to learn is how to write the withdrawal slips so you can begin taking it out and bringing it, manifesting in your life. As long as it's in the bank and you don't know how to withdraw it, you don't know where the bank is, you don't know how to get there, it's never going to be in your life. But once you learn how to use your imagination, you learn how to tap into these things, meditation, being still, being present. When you begin to use these tools, you can write those withdrawal slips and begin to bring health, peace, harmony, abundance into your life. And that's what we're all about. And that's what most of the spiritual teachers out there are all about. And you know what? The thing is this too. We can hear it all. But it says faith without works is dead. Until you put it into action, it doesn't matter. There's the $1 million. Okay, we got faith, it's there. We can talk about it, read about it. All the books tell us that we're God. All the books tell us we can do all those things. But until we put it into action, it's dead. It's lifeless. It's in the bank where we can't get it. But today, what we want you to do is to be able to know that there are ways and tools to write those withdrawal slips and put them into your lives. One is meditation. To me, one is going and connecting with nature. Taking the time, get off the cement. Lie in the sand, lie in the dirt, lie in the grass. Mother Earth has all the energies we need to really begin opening everything we need and begin to connect us. The grass begins talking, the trees begin talking, the flowers begin. Everything becomes symbolic to you. When you open your attention to that, I go back to this all the time. Yeshua said something that was so powerful. He said, seek you first. What do you seek first? All the stuff that's going to keep you healthy, all the stuff that's going to keep you happy. What do you seek first? Think of your life right now. Because it's the greatest key that you'll ever know. It says, seek you first the kingdom within you. And all these things will be added unto you. It says you'll be blessed going out. You'll be blessed coming in. You won't be able to get out of the blessings. But many of us, we seek all these other things first. instead of really putting our energy into what is going to change our life. Seek you first. What's inside of you? Get to know it. Get to feel it. Connect with it. Be still and know it. Hear the voice. You know, I always say if I call Pam, she'd know my voice right away. She said, that's Mary Lou. But if I hadn't known her and I called her, she said, who's this? So it's the same with your higher consciousness. You got to connect with that voice so you recognize it when it's saying, no, that's not for you. Let it go. Or yes, this is the way, walk you in it. You have to know that voice because that voice will lead you, guide you, direct you. We're in a pivotal time in the history of humanity. I don't know about you, but I know in my life, it's like things are coming all the time. And I'm readjusting, thinking over how I've done it in the past and how I need to do it in a different way in the future, because I guarantee you, the things of the past aren't going to work anymore. We're seeing everything implode on itself, are we not? Government, pharmaceuticals, education, it's imploding. It's coming down. And the Bible said this too, 6 days can man work. We've had 6,000 years that we can use our noggins and think that we know what's best. But on that 7th day, our reasoning power ain't going to work anymore. It's by my spirit. And it's by connecting to that in spirit within ourselves and walking inspired in every moment that's going to get us through these times ahead. And supporting one another. Taking down the walls of competition. Taking down the walls of all of those things that have separated, judgment and everything, and really beginning to support one another. So I just urge all of you, this is such a pivotal time. Just seek you first. What's inside of you? Because what's inside of you will connect you with the computer of the all-knowing universe. With every answer. Just like I type in, what is the real meaning of spirituality? And up pops it up. What if I connect up here and say, how do I connect with spirit? How do I walk inspired in every moment? And then wait and begin to know that the answer's coming all different ways. It can come in a book, it can come on a sign, it can come on, I've seen it on license plates in front of me. I've seen it when that little bird began to talk to me. I've seen it in trash on the beach. It'll come in all ways, the way that you most can respond to it. But the answer will come. Ask, seek, and then listen.